Whoa, did you catch Perez's remark on the podium about there being 3 Red Bull cars? Seems like the F1 champion is feeling the heat from Aston Martin's impressive performance. Can you blame them though? After all, the British team boasts a former Red Bull squad in their ranks, and they've harnessed the combined power of Red Bull and Mercedes parts to create an absolute beast of a machine. So, should Red Bull be shaking in their boots? Hold on to your hats, folks. Helmut Marko is throwing some serious shade at Aston Martin's newly designed AMR 23. Despite previously acknowledging the former Red Bull crew at Aston Martin's have a good memory, Marko is now casting doubt on whether there's something more sinister behind the Red Bull-styled car. It's no secret that Red Bull has lost some key players to Aston Martin over the past couple of years, including design team members Andrew Alessi and Dan Fallows. And when Aston Martin unveiled their heavily revised car last season, many eyebrows were raised due to its striking resemblance to Red Bull's RB18. Red Bull raised some serious doubts about the similarities between Aston Martin's AMR 23 and their own F1 car. However, the FIA gave the green light after finding no evidence of wrongdoing, with Aston Martin stating that the IP for the AMR 22 is entirely their own. According to the team, they had started working on the B-Spec design back in 2021, well before Dan Fallows moved over from Red Bull. But now, Helmut Marko is once again firing up the rumor mill with his latest questions about the new AMR 23. It's true that what Fallows had in his head cannot be erased, the Red Bull Motorsport advisor told Service TV. Copying the Focus is not prohibited, but can you copy in such detail without having documentation of our car? We had 3 Red Bulls on the podium, only the last one with a different engine. This was after the Bahrain Grand Prix, while Helmut Marko made some eyebrow-raising comments in the aftermath of Fernando Alonso's third-place finish alongside Red Bull's dynamic duo Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. It's no secret that Red Bull has been keeping a watchful eye on Aston Martin, and Marko's latest remarks suggest that he's not entirely convinced by the legitimacy of their recent success. But after all, Marko had some serious praise for Fernando Alonso after his stellar performance at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Despite his doubts about Aston Martin, Marko couldn't help but be impressed by Alonso's gutsy overtaking maneuvers, which saw him pass not just one, but both of the Mercedes drivers, as well as Carlos Sainz. In fact, Marko was so confident in Alonso's abilities that he even projected the Spaniard would take third place before the race had even started. And boy, did he deliver. His intense battle with Lewis Hamilton was a true nail-biter, and Marko couldn't help but marvel at the old-school nature of their duel. It's clear that Alonso is a force to be reckoned with, and Marko knows it. If only the Spaniard had started further up the grid, he could have posed a serious threat to Red Bull's podium dominance. Marko isn't the only one thinking that Aston Martin's AMR 23 is basically a third Red Bull car. Even Sergio Perez couldn't resist poking fun at the situation, quipping on the podium that it was nice to see 3 Red Bull cars up there. And if that wasn't enough, Red Bull team boss Christian Horner added fuel to the fire by stating that based on the first race of the season, Aston Martin was the second strongest team out there. Ooh, them's fighting words. They've obviously done a good job over the winter. They say imitation is the biggest form of flattery and, you know, it's good to see the old car doing so well, said Horner. The tension between these two teams is palpable, and it's clear that they're both eager to come out on top. But why were such comments made? Well, it turns out that in the last couple of years, a bunch of Red Bull employees have jumped ship to join the Aston Martin team. Along them are Dan Fallows, who used to be the head of the aerodynamics at Red Bull, and Andrew Alessi, a former Red Bull designer who now heads up technical operations at Aston Martin. But here's where things get really juicy. When Aston Martin unveiled their new car at last year's Spanish Grand Prix, Red Bull immediately raised suspicions. Dubbed the Green Red Bull, the car bore a striking resemblance to the Red Bull model, leading Red Bull to launch an internal investigation to see if there had been any intellectual property leaks. Red Bull accused Aston Martin of stealing their design secrets when the Green Red Bull AMR 22 car made its debut, but the FIA cleared Aston Martin of any wrongdoing. However, Red Bull team boss Christian Horner still seems to be suspicious, saying that what's already in a person's head cannot be deleted. Fast forward to this season, and Aston Martin's new AMR 23 is once again drawing comparisons to the Red Bull model with its similar design. But this time, there's a twist. The car is actually performing well and keeping up with Red Bull's pace. In fact, Aston Martin kicked off the 2023 championship with a bang, scoring a podium finish with Fernando Alonso taking third place alongside Red Bull's Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez at the Bahrain Grand Prix. This is what Marko had to say about all this. If you compare the cars, the Aston Martin is most similar to our Red Bull. There's a reason for that. Not only did Fallows change, but also some other employees, and they obviously have a good memory. The AMR 23 has definitely brought some heat to the track, with Lance Stroll finishing 6th in the season opener. However, the million-dollar question is whether Aston Martin can continue to develop and keep up in F1's never-ending development race, according to Ralf Schumacher. Last season, the AMR 22 was one of the most improved cars, and if the British racing team wants to maintain their pace near the front of the pack, they'll need to step up their game once again. But even though Schumacher is impressed with their recent performance, he believes that Red Bull still holds the upper hand over the rest of the field. They, Red Bull, have learned over the years and have grown together without compromise, said the former F1 driver. Verstappen is the most complete racing driver in the field. The crucial question will be how well Aston Martin is able to further develop the car in the budget cap. Fernando is certainly helpful with his experience, but I think Red Bull has a few things up their sleeve. Ralf Schumacher thinks that Sebastian Vettel may be feeling regretful about his decision to retire from Formula One. According to Schumacher, Vettel may be happy at home without the added stress, but he might also be wishing he could be part of the action. Every driver dreams of starting the season off with a bang, after all. However, Schumacher also acknowledges that being in a team can be challenging, so it's a mixed bag. Schumacher's colleagues at Sky Sports were effusive in their praise for Fernando Alonso's performance at the Bahrain Grand Prix. After overtaking George Russell on the track, Alonso fought hard against Lewis Hamilton and emerged victorious, before eventually passing Carlos Sainz to secure third place. Nico Rosberg couldn't contain his excitement, exclaiming that Alonso drives as if he were 25 years old again. Gigantic. He was especially impressed with the speed Alonso showed in the race and his daring overtaking maneuvers, particularly against Hamilton. Rosberg called it insane and brilliant. Timo Glock was also thrilled with Alonso's performance, noting that he loved how the Spaniard's aggressive driving style allowed for some great overtaking maneuvers. Glock said that you could see the fire in Alonso's eyes and predicted that fans would have a lot of fun watching him race this season. Dan Fallows, the technical director of Aston Martin, is excited about the potential for further development of the team's 2023 F1 car as they strive to climb up the ranks in the highly competitive field. The AMR 23 made waves during preseason testing, with Fernando Alonso putting in some jaw-dropping laps in the new challenger. In an exclusive interview with RacingNews365.com, Fallows shared some insight into the team's aggressive approach to developing the car. He explained that while it was indeed an evolution of last year's car, it's a highly ambitious one, with the team making substantial gains in both aerodynamics and mechanics compared to the previous model. Despite the limitations imposed by the rules, Aston Martin's development process is showing promise, and Fallows is optimistic about what lies ahead for the team. He also noted that they have a momentum from last year. Being able to design a car from scratch, to be able to do everything with following one individual concept, was a great benefit, I think. Also, there was a lot of momentum from last year because we made quite a significant amount of progress in the second half of the season. So, it has been carrying that on. Fallows outlined the team's focus on consistency and reliability in testing, as well as ensuring the driver can extract the best lap times possible from the car. He also hinted at the possibility of further development, saying that the AMR 23 provides an excellent platform for future improvements. For Aston Martin, the 2023 season is all about making the most of their new car and continuing to push the limits of what's possible in F1. Red Bull should start sweating because Aston Martin is looking like a real threat in the F1 championship this year. With their impressive performance in the Bahrain Grand Prix and a car that offers great potential for development, the team could definitely catch up to Red Bull. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already.